presentation. So let me just go ahead and dive in, and let's see where it goes. So I think one of the most important aspects of selling the Generac power cell systems is leveraging the Generac brand. Many of you are on this call because you know who Generac is, and you know that your customers know who Generac is. We're all, kind of solar wonks, and we all know who Solar Edge is, but our customers really don't. That's something we go out and explain. That's not something you have to do with the Generac brand. Instead, when you sit down at the table with your customer, you can talk about Generac being the market leader in backup power. You can tell them that we have over 2 million residential customers in North America, and we own 70% of the market share in providing backup power to American homes. You can be confident in knowing that we're a reliable, single source, single warranty partner. So everything downstream of the solar modules is branded by Generac, it's manufactured by Generac, it's warranted by Generac. If you need service, you need support, you call one number for the entire system. We have 60 years of experience providing backup power in North America, and we're a $2.2 billion company. If the tax credit goes away, we're not going anywhere. We have a broad, diversified product line and product offering that makes sure we're a secure partner financially over the long haul. And this last one, 24/7, 365 customer service. I think this is a really unique offering in the marketplace. If your customer needs help at 11 p.m. on a Saturday night to power cycle their inverter, they're not going to call you. They're going to call Generac. And our customer service can walk them through a script that allows them to power cycle that device. It's not high level, tech to tech sort of interaction, but what it is peace of mind for the end user and support for you, so that the end user knows they can call somebody at any time, and you know that you've got somebody in your corner that your customer can call. So leveraging the Generac brand is really, it's probably a big reason on why you're on this call. You already know who Generac is, your customer knows who Generac is, so we want to help you bring that brand to your customers. All right, briefly, I am going to talk about not briefly, mostly, I'm going to talk about the product line. I'm going to explain what we do on the roof, what we do on the wall, what we do on the battery box, and what we do on the load management side. So I'm going to drill down on individual components to just kind of give you an explanation about how all these parts come together to form a cohesive system. One of the things you really need to remember about Generac is that we're a fully integrated solar plus storage system. So we don't make solar modules. It's not something we want to do, but everything downstream of the PV module is Generac branded. So from module level shutdown protection to optimizers to the battery bank to the inverter, everything in the system is branded, manufactured, and supported by Generac. So a true single source system with plug and play functionality. Think Apple. If you want to think about how our equipment goes together and communicates with each other, Apple is a really good representation of where we're headed with the system integration. You plug something in, it knows the other things are there, it talks to each other, and off everything goes working. So that's really where we're going, where we're headed with this product line. I think something that we can do that other brands can't is we have load management that allows us to power more of the home during an outage than other brands. And undoubtedly, it allows us to do way more with a single inverter than absolutely anyone else. And the cool thing is this is technology that we've had on our generator side for a decade, but it's something that we can leverage on the clean energy side to really improve the backup power experience for our customers. And lastly on this slide, we allow you and your customers to take very small bites of this battery so that you can optimally size it for your customers' needs. So anywhere from 9 to 18 kilowatt hours per battery cabinet in 3 kilowatt hour bites. So you don't have to buy 9 kilowatt hours at a time. You don't have to buy 13 kilowatt hours at a time. If your customer needs 12 kilowatt hours to get them through their time of use period, then you can get them exactly that. You're not having to take these huge chunks in order to meet your customer's needs. So you can right size the system for them. All right, I'm going to talk about what we do on the wall. The PWRcell inverter is the core of our system, and it's fundamentally the central device that allows the interconnection of all the other components. Let's just get right down to the nitty gritty on it. So I am not going to read the spec sheet out loud to you, but there are some specifications of note that I think we should talk about. First of all, it's indoor or outdoor rated, so you can hang it outside or inside, wherever is convenient. It's got an integrated automatic transfer switch. So if you want to connect a protected loads panel to this inverter, you don't need an auto transformer or additional equipment. You can just hook up a panel of loads that you want to back up during an outage, and off you go. And most importantly, I think we should take a look at these values, particularly in how they compare to other manufacturers. So this one is really important. When you're talking to customers about battery storage and you're talking about backup power, this is a very important value. Being able to drop 50 amps onto a load for a couple of seconds is the difference between getting water out of the ground and not in many cases. Starting surge is a huge issue for inverters and managing loads off grid. So being able to drop a 50 amp hammer on a well pump is something that other vendors can't do and something Generac can do from a single inverter. So you can also take a look here. When the grid is down, we're able to push out 9 kW continuous to the loads during an outage. So we can start more loads and support more loads than other vendors, not by a little bit, but by a lot. Okay, we're going to talk about what we do in the battery box. So we've got kind of a unique approach to this in that we don't give you this one size fits all big bite solution. Instead, we take a more modular approach inside the enclosure. So you start with a battery enclosure, the Generac PWRcell battery box. And then you can stack anywhere from 3 to 6 of these individual battery modules so that you can get anywhere from, actually these numbers are a bit dated now, anywhere from 9 to 18 kilowatt hours. You see this note down here? Each one of these modules is increasing to 3 kilowatt hours in October. So I think now is the appropriate time to discuss that the usable energy in these systems go from 9 to 18 kilowatt hours. You stack anywhere from 3 to 6 batteries inside the box. So what that lets you do is it lets you have a sort of a starter system. You've got limited power capability, you've got limited energy. But what you've got is the basis for a system that can grow later. So say your customer, they only need 8 kilowatt hours to ride through their time of use period, or they don't have a lot of loads that they need to back up during an outage. Then this is a great starter system for them. Say that same customer, has a baby, their family grows, and they end up and their loads grow. Well, their system can grow with them. What this says, or rather our approach, is that we want our system to be flexible enough to adapt to meet the customer's needs now where they are, but also to help that customer downstream and grow as the customer's needs change. So this is not an inflexible system this is what you got for the next 25 years and here we go. We can adapt as the customer's needs adapt. As their loads change, we can add more PV. As their tariff changes, we can add more storage. So our system has a lot of flexibility, both in the way it's installed initially and the way that you manage that sale downstream that do two things. One, it gives the customer peace of mind and opportunity to expand their system in a manageable way that's not kind of kludged together. And for you, it gives you the opportunity to go back to the same customer with those same customer acquisition costs and make more sales. So our flexibility, our platform gives your customer peace of mind and allows you to make more money. And we think both of those are good things. Okay, what we do on the roof. I'm not gonna drill down into the technology too far, but there are some important distinctions that I want to make, and one in particular that I want to make to help avoid any confusion. So we call what we do on the roof the power zone, and each power zone is a collection of anywhere from 2 to 9 solar modules behind a single optimizer. So we've got multi-panel optimizers. Each one of those modules may have a module level shutdown device, the Snap RS. But rather than module level power electronics, which many of us have experience with, we believe that we can achieve the same benefits through string level power electronics, or rather substring. So an important distinction is when installers look at this, often they say, okay, this is just like an MPPT, or it's just like a string inverter, but it's in 2 boxes. I don't have to think about it anymore. And I want to make the distinction now that string inverters have what are called buck converters. So they take high voltage and they knock it down to grid voltage, and then they invert and push out. If they don't have that high voltage to knock down, they don't work. So if you shade some of those modules in that 15 panel string, then you're not going to have enough voltage to knock down and push out to the grid and make power. We don't do that. We are not a buck converter. We're a boost converter. So we take low voltage. We can go as low as 60 volts on this sucker. And we boost that up to bus voltage. And then we either push it into the battery or we push it into the inverter and flip it to AC and push it out. So that's an important distinction, because if you shade a string on a string inverter, that string's going to stop. If you shade anywhere, if you've got 9 modules connected to a PV link, you can shade 7 of them, and this device is still going to deliver power back to the inverter. Again, I don't want to go too off the rails technically, but there's a big difference between a boost converter and a buck converter. And you should know that when you're talking about shade mitigation concerns, with your customer, or when you're thinking about it on site. Okay, again, I've talked about the power zone. I've talked about these being boost converters rather than buck converters. You can kind of see the specifications on this device. Something to think about. Each one of these is rated at 2.5 kW. Anything above 2.5 kW, and one of the PV links is going to start clipping. So when you're doing design work, you kind of need to keep that in mind. Each one of these is 2.5 kW. We can tie up to 6 of these to a single inverter. So we can literally do a 2-to-1 DC to AC ratio on our inverters. So up to 15 kilowatts of PV on a single 7.6. I know that sounds like crazy design practice, but if you've got a lot of battery tied to it, then you may have a place to put it. So it's something we can do. Okay, lastly, this stuff is going to be probably a little newer to you and very exciting for us. What we do inside the home in order to provide load management. So it starts with the PWRcell ATS. Again, this is technology that we've leveraged from the generator side of our business. So we've got a lot of experience with this, and we've been able to couple it with our clean energy products to improve the backup power experience for our customers. What's unique about this is it has built-in load management for 4 HVAC units. So inside this device, we have switches that can turn on and off thermostats. So we have low voltage switching. If you want to run thermostat wires out there, we can control HVAC units right from that automatic transfer switch. So what that lets us do is take those loads and put them out of the way during an outage. We can bring them back on as needed, one at a time, but initially it lets us shed them so that we can protect the inverter from overload during an outage. And let me move on and kind of explain what we do. Okay. So Generac has taken technology that we have used on the generator side of the business for about a decade, and we have leveraged that onto the clean energy side so that we can give our customers a better backup power experience. And these are the devices that we use to do that. So fundamentally, these smart management modules enable us to manage or lock out 240 volt loads inside the main service panel so that we can give the homeowner how do you describe it? A whole home backup experience. So let me explain where it's coming from. These allow our customers to install a 13 kilowatt generator instead of a 22 kilowatt generator. And what they do, here, let me go to the next slide. Here we go. So this is a good representation of what these smart management modules enable you to do. Say we've got 85 amps of load that we want to put into a backup panel. So we don't have to power them all at one time, but we do know that we have 85 amps that we want to get power to at some point during a blackout. So if we were to set it up without any smart management modules, this is what it would look like in the service panel. This is what it would look like according to code. And this wouldn't pass inspection. So you wouldn't be able to sell this system to your customer, even if your customer agrees that they're just going to turn some things on individually. But if you integrate automatic switching that enables you to load shed in case you're reaching inverter overload, then you can absolutely put 85 amps of load into that panel and just power them one at a time. So fundamentally, this allows us to give a code compliant solution to deliver power to more loads than we would be able to without this smart management and load switching. I've got a good example that shows how it works. Here we go. So check this out. The sump pump at the bottom. This is what ensures that our basement never floods. So we never, ever want that to be without power. So we're not going to put it on a load management module. So fundamentally, we're going to make sure that this stays on all the time. But when the power goes out, we're willing to alternate running our pump with running our 3-ton air conditioner. So sometimes we can have water, or we can have water when we need it. And also, we're not melting in our house. So here's what happens. When the grid goes down, we've got the sump pump getting power all the time. And then we have the well pump set as priority 1 with one of our smart management modules, the air conditioner set as priority 2, and lastly, we've got the big boy, the 5-ton air conditioner set on lockout. So let's talk about what's happening with this customer. The power goes out. Their sump pump is still running, so they know their basement is going to stay dry. They are drawing water from the well right now, so this switch is not turning on. When they are no longer drawing water from the well, this switch is going to sense drawing, or rather, this switch will turn on with a timer, followed by this switch with a timer, and this one will never turn on because it's set in lockout condition. So fundamentally, we can alternate between these loads during an outage. We always have power to this one, and we never deliver power to the loads that are locked out. So let's take a 5-ton Airco, monstrous air conditioner. Let's take the pool pump. Let's take the barn load. Let's take some 240 volt loads that we know we really don't care about during an outage. Let's lock them out so they don't bury the inverter. Let's take our climate control and let's put it on a lower priority because we want power to it, but it is not absolutely essential. It's not what we want power to first. Let's take our well pump and make sure that we get our power to that first, and let's never, ever let our basement flood. So we can do all of this with a single inverter. Other vendors are forced to either not do some of these or throw a bunch of inverters and a bunch of cost at the problem in order to provide an experience like this. So these inexpensive switches can give a backup power experience that's similar to a much larger device, or more like a generator than a little battery system. And that capability is unique to Generac. All right. And lastly, backup power. This is an important distinction when talking about DC coupled systems. So if you're talking about Tesla, well, let me just move on. If you are looking at an AC coupled system, then in many cases during an outage, you're powering the home from you're always powering the home from the battery. Sometimes the solar array is on, sometimes the solar array is off. It depends on the state of charge of the battery and how much sun is shining, whether or not the battery system can handle the full capacity of the inverter. So there's or of the solar array. So there's all kinds of of ways that this PV array might be turned off when you need it most. When you are looking at a Generac PWRcell system, that is absolutely never the case. We power the loads from the roof during an outage. We save the battery for nighttime. That's how we can extend our runtime in a way that AC coupled systems can't. Okay. And let's see, power view. So monitoring. We recognize that once it's all said and done, the system is installed, that the monitoring platform in many ways becomes the product. So I mean, your customer doesn't go out into the garage and look at the panel if a panel is on the inverter to see what it's doing. What they do is they pull up their iPad, they pull up their phone, and they look at the app associated with their system, and they say, what's happening with my investment? So we believe that we can provide more useful information than just X number of kilowatt hours per day. Our goal is to provide what we call actionable information to our customers, something they can use to make a decision, something they can use to help themselves. So we always have consumption monitoring built into our systems so that we can look at how much power they're drawing from the grid. We know where they are, so we know what their tariff is. We can look at their historic bills. We can, and in some cases, help to predict their future bills. So this is, PowerView it's a relatively new platform. It's got a lot of really cool features, but know that we recognize that an engaging monitoring platform really becomes the product for the customer. So it always has to be useful and slick and fast and give our customers information they can use. So, I mean, it's not just kilowatt hours per day. We want it to be meaningful. And we think that brings value to the end user. All right, lastly, for this section, key selling points. We're looking at a single islanding inverter for both solar and storage. You don't have to throw a bunch of inverters at a problem in order to solve it, in order to provide a good backup power experience or enough storage capacity to meet your time of use or demand charge needs. The PV system directly charges the battery rather than going through the inverter. So that provides a lot of benefit, not just in backup power, but also in clipped power. So if I've got a 10 kilowatt array on the roof and I'm pushing 7.6 kilowatts out through the inverter, that's all I'm ever gonna deliver, either to the grid or to the battery if I'm trying to charge one. With a PWRcell, if I've got 10 kilowatts on the roof and I'm pushing 7.6 kilowatts out to the grid, the remaining 2.5 can go right into the battery. So having a DC coupled system allows you to harvest energy that would be clipped using other systems. And that's an important distinction. It's something that would be thrown away otherwise. And we put it right into the battery. Okay, single battery capable of whole home backup through load management. Again, something that other vendors can't provide. And first load management system, SMs are through smart management modules and through the switching inside the ATS. And lastly, 100% Generac products backed by Generac, backed by a 24/7, 365 customer service line. And I think that's it for this section. All right, Kelly, have you read any questions, or do we have any that are popping up here?
Yeah, hi, Steve. I've just been answering them as they've been coming in, and the system
Great.
seems to be working okay. So anyone that has anything to ask, please fill it in the question box.
Thanks very much, Kelly. I appreciate that. And I'll go look at those later and see what you guys are asking so I can find out what I'm missing and try and refine this a little bit. So I appreciate everybody's attention so far, and I am just going to carry on. So, all right. So, while we're all on this call, we want to focus on our ability to sell storage. We want to make sure that we can deliver an effective message to the customer at the kitchen table and close that deal. So I'm going to try and help you walk through that. The things you need to be ready for when you sit down at that table. You want to know your market. So where are you? Are you in California? So you're talking about the incentive program, the SGIP program. Are you in Arizona? So you're talking, so You know whether there's an SRP rebate or demand charges in your service territory. So know your market. What are going to be those drivers? Do you have a lot of power outages? What are your customers looking for? Why are they remotely interested in storage? So know your offering. What are you bringing to the table? How many kilowatt hours? How much power? What can I back up? How long can I back it up? The questions that really come to, the questions that customers will want to answer, even if you have to give a qualified answer, like, well, if this, then that. What you don't want to do is say, I can't answer that without a whole lot more information. What you can say is, well, if you want to keep the refrigerator and the freezer going overnight, then you have more than enough energy, and you can also add lights and things like that. So you turn it into an if-then statement. Know your customers. Ask questions. What are their pain points? Why are they considering batteries? Is it because of cost? Is it because of power outages? Is it because of fear? What are their pain points? What are they looking for? Because that's ultimately how you're going to deliver value to those clients. And then show them how to pay for the battery. So this is an interesting one. So if you're in time of use rates, then the way you're going to achieve some payback, or perhaps all of the payback on that battery, is through the differential between the morning rates and the afternoon rates. So you're taking inexpensive energy from the morning production that you could have delivered to the grid, and instead saving that for the afternoon when rates are twice as high, for example. So you need to show them how to pay for the battery. If you're looking at demand charges, again, like say Arizona, for example, then you want to show them how that you can dispatch the battery in order to clamp their demand down so that they don't go over that power level during the demand period. So you want to show them what the cash flow looks like, or talk about what that looks like right out of the gate. Now, in some cases, you may be making a pure backup power play, right? You don't have time of use. You don't have demand charges. You've got stable net metering. So what questions are you asking your customer? Have you ever been impacted by a power outage? What was that impact? Do you have a freezer? Are you concerned about being able to get water during a power outage? So there are other questions. And then you can quantify some of those. What's a freezer full of food cost you? That's a little bit more difficult, but it does provide a path towards payback. It does provide, some quantification on where you're headed with this battery. So again, know your market. I've kind of nailed a lot of these points. I don't think I need to dwell on this slide too much, but each driver is going to be different. I think I'm talking to our sales works that work across the country. So this is really going to be state and utility specific. And this is something that you can drill down through you can start at the State Renewable Energy Incentives database and then drill down all the way to individual tariffs or utility and see what storage can do for your customers. So again, each one of these is going to be market specific. And as we move forward with your teams selling Generac product, you'll be able to talk to somebody like me. And if you work in the Rockies or the Southwest, it will be exactly me. And if you work in California or North Carolina or Florida, then it will be someone like me that represents those markets and has expertise in those markets that can help you drill down on exactly what the market drivers are and how we can help you, achieve or help your customers achieve their goals with storage. Okay, know your offering. That's why you're here. Is to learn about a storage solution that you can go out and offer to your clients. I'm fundamentally having all this information available to you in your mind where you can rattle it off ultimately builds confidence with the client. So you coming here and training with us and then reviewing the follow-up materials that we send to you and being articulate about Generac ultimately is going to serve you well, and we're trying to help you get there. Again, find your customers' pain points. Why are they considering storage? What are they concerned about? What keeps them up at night when they're thinking about batteries, if anything? Again, have you been impacted by power outages? How long did it last? What was the impact? Did you lose a freezer? Did you lose a freezer full of food? Could you get water out of the ground? And other questions. Are you familiar with your local incentive program? Do you have time of use rates? And do you know that batteries can help you avoid the extra costs that you experience in the afternoon? Here's one. How could your consumption change in the future? And are you considering buying an electric vehicle? So if you've got somebody that thinks they want to get a starter system, but will expand that system later, then certainly starting with a power cell with 5 kilowatts of solar on it and being able to go up to 15 kilowatts of PV behind the same inverter without a bunch of electrical infrastructure upgrades, that has a lot of value to the customer. That flexibility brings value to your offering. And lastly, ask your customer how familiar they are with energy storage. You'll be surprised at the myriad of misconceptions that people have. And that represents an opportunity for you to overcome those misconceptions and say, no, that's how it used to be. Or no, that's dated information, or that's been you've been misinformed, or something along those lines. It gives you the opportunity to correct their misunderstanding, help them understand what energy storage can do for them. It doesn't have to be big and bulky or take up the whole room or anything like that. And let's see, tying it all together. So fundamentally, you've got to explain how storage works. You charge a battery with the sun, and you discharge it when you need it. You've got to explain how energy storage works and how it will help them uniquely. So discharge it when you need it means either during time of use, during demand charges, during an outage, because you want to engage in self-supply, because you want to remain exclusively on clean energy. So you need to be able to explain how storage is going to help that customer reach their goals. Again, I've emphasized you want to show them how to pay for the battery, and that may be a blended conversation. So say you've got time of use, but the delta between on-peak and on-peak is not enough to cash flow this whole battery, right? So it's enough to pay for a chunk of it, but it doesn't quite pay for all of it. You can say, well, most of this battery this battery mostly pays for itself through time of use offset. But for the part that it doesn't, it provides you backup power and peace of mind during an outage. So that may be a blended conversation if you don't have the big delta in on-peak versus off-peak TOU. Offer financing. I think this is important when you're adding. So if somebody's just considering PV and we're adding storage to that system, it looks like a big bite, but financed over the life of the product, it is a less significant hit, and you have the opportunity to cash flow it over the cycle of that loan. So offering financing is an important part of the value package. And have net battery costs ready. So make sure that you know what the incentives are and how those impact your costs. Make sure you know that the tax credit applies and how those impact your costs. And so that you can really drill down so that people understand that the number they see initially is not necessarily the number that they're going to see as the bottom line. And then nail it, close that sale, pull it all together. All right. Looks like Kelly's still answering questions for us, so that's awesome. We're getting close here, folks. I appreciate your time, and I'm going to move into kind of some configurations on how we would set these systems up for sale. Let's see. Well, let's just take a look. This is a system that would provide whole home backup to an end user. It's kind of a flagship solar plus storage system. It includes an ATS and load management and a full cabinet of batteries. So fundamentally, our load management gives us that whole home experience. We can support multi-day outages. We power everything from the roof during the day. We don't have to engage in rewiring. So fundamentally, rather than going in and breaking out a protected loads panel, we are instead installing smart management modules in line between the load and the service panel. And I should emphasize, these SMMs, they're looking for a frequency signal from the inverter. They don't have to have comm lines. They don't have to have Cat5s run to them. They're communicating over the power lines. What that means is if you have to install one of them at the pool pump instead of at the service panel, no problem. Anywhere in line between the breaker and the load is all the SMMs care about. So lots of flexibility in managing those loads so that we can provide a good backup experience. So again, that's one of the ways we eliminate that costly rewiring and the need to break out a protected loads panel. We can just switch off some loads inside your main service panel and carry on. And this system allows for additional storage. So this single inverter can handle 2 of these battery enclosures so up to 36 kilowatt hours of storage behind one of these single inverters. We got a lot of flexibility in what we can bring to the table. All right, this is more of an entry-level system. This says, okay, I've got some essential loads that I really want to power. I don't need the automatic transfer switch, the external automatic transfer switch. I am perfectly comfortable with the one built into the inverter. So this is it's a more of a starter system. So inside the battery enclosure, we've got 9 kilowatt hours of storage, just 3 of these cells. We don't have any load management. Instead, we've got the protected loads moved over to a sub panel. So we're providing lights, communication, outlets, and refrigeration. This up to 7 hours of backup, that assumes, say, a 1 kilowatt continuous load, just give or take. And it's more of an entry-level price point. But the cool thing about this is this can always become this if that's what your customer chooses to do. And here's some typical bill of materials, just to kind of get your head around what it looks like. I know I've been talking about a lot of individual components and parts and pieces, but look, this is a very short bill of materials. This is a very simple system that goes together quite easily. I've got an installation background, so I tend to look at this stuff with installers' eyes, and the simplicity of this system gives me confidence, I guess is the best way of putting that. But these are just examples of the bills of materials that you might see. So I should emphasize, PV only is absolutely a thing for us. We would be thrilled if you decided to lead with the PWRcell inverter as your primary inverter without adding storage, because you recognize that if tariffs change, if needs change, your customer wants to have the capacity to change with them. So leading with a PV only PWRcell and adding storage later, adding a generator later, adding more PV later, we're perfectly fine with that. We think it's a great business decision and it's great for the customer. So we encourage that. Some takeaways about the product line, about selling it. Generac is not out there trying to compete with you. And I think that's an important distinction when you're looking at your vendors, at whose products you want to sell. Our goal is to build you up, to make you a better sales team, and to help you install quality products that are going to last a very long time. Other vendors don't approach the market that way, and ultimately their goals may not be the same as yours. Ours, and we align our goals to parallel yours. We're a fully integrated solar and storage platform, so we are not. So here's something to keep in mind. What we are not is the be-all, end-all retrofit solution for anybody that's already got solar installed. We are not that company. But what we are is the best solution for solar plus storage for brand new installations on the market, hands down. Fully integrated system means that we're easier to install, we produce more energy, and we don't have compatibility issues. And when I talk about compatibility issues, I'm not even talking about software. I mean, my own experience is when I was installing SolarEdge and LG Chem, you could call up LG Chem and LG Chem say, no, that's SolarEdge. SolarEdge say, no, that's LG Chem. It's like, well, one of you guys needs to answer this question. That is never, ever going to be the case with Generac, because it's always Generac. We're the most cost-effective whole home solution in the marketplace. Our ability to load manage, our ability to switch loads off and switch them back on, that's the key. Anybody can turn them off. Anybody can shed load. But our ability to switch them on and provide power throughout the house is unique in the marketplace. And the other thing, not just unique, but we're not throwing inverters and cost at a problem. What we're doing is taking a smarter approach. We're using inexpensive switching instead of expensive inverters, and we're solving a problem in a way that is more thoughtful instead of just using a big inverter hammer. So it is a better, more cost-effective approach in the long term, and it will serve your customers better. Lastly, we always back up the house from the sun. So if the sun is shining, then during an outage, we are powering the loads in the house with that and saving the battery for later. All right, folks, that is the entire thing. I think Kelly's been answering your questions throughout. I am going to send out a follow-up to all the attendees with my contact data. And hopefully I'll hear, along with information about this presentation and a customer-facing brochure to even help you get started. So I'm going to send these things out to you guys. Hopefully I'll hear back from you so that we can start a dialogue. I would love to have some more communication with you so that we can handshake you with your market development manager in your region so that we can get you state-specific help to really help you drill down on what it takes to sell this gear, and let our team help you through the first sale, through the process, and get comfortable with our product, because that's why we're here. So again, I want to thank everyone for attending. I appreciate you sitting through this. I hope you found it informative and useful, and I look forward to following up with all of you later on this afternoon. So thanks again.